This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, this is the community development meeting on November 30th, 23 at 5:30 p.m. Present is Mike McKinnon, Kelly Simons, see, I don't have it, Riley Pitney, Mary Gaziano, and myself, and Sally Bennett will be here as well. I guess do a roll call vote?
Beckman.
Here.
McKinnon.
Here.
Pitney.
Here. Okay, any conflict of interest?
Not that I'm aware of.
Hearing that, we go on, and there's nobody signed up for public comment. Approval of the minutes from September 28th, 23. We didn't have a meeting in October.
I will motion to approve the minutes of September the 28th. Second.
Okay,
I read them. I didn't see anything that I thought needed repair or correction.
all in favor? Yeah. So, on to discussion. So, I started with this property for sale on Stover Street in case Jerry Langley came, because he did come to the board meeting. I had received the old, couple-year-old appraisal from Frank. Anyway, I don't think I myself am saying we're not interested in that. It's priced rather high in my opinion.
Hard to figure out what it's priced at because his number says one thing and his words say another.
Yeah, they did.
And if it's, as the words say, there's no way that property is worth anywhere close to that.
Right. Well, I just wanted to get that to be finalized.
And I guess the bigger problem is even if you approached it at some reasonable offer, I just don't know what you could do with that tight space.
I looked at it on Wingis, and it's, even for parking, it's not the ideal spot. It was mentioned to me by someone else about parking lot, public parking, but.
We had discussed that a couple times, and, and the reality of it is, depending on what the transaction price would be, depending on what formerly the township, now the historical society.
Right.
If they were hosting a lot of events and everything kind of a perfect parking for them. But, and again, my biggest challenge is that I don't even know how you would utilize that.
No, and at that price point, it's just not even.
Well, but I take the price point away start by, first of all, what could you use it for? And if you could use it for, if we had an interest, you'd make an offer, but it would be substantially less than what he's, you've got this vacant piece of property right here off of Elida Street, which is larger, that hasn't sold in years. You do have another vacant piece of property right down here on Benton Street, that nothing has happened with that, so.
And this one over here is not sold yet either. It's on the
Well,
corner.
at least it's probably a more usable piece of
Yeah.
property, and I think they're asking less for that than what, he believes the value of that one is. And you probably have to incur the cost of tearing the building down. I don't think that's very serviceable at this particular point. But,
Even if it was a working car wash, then it would be something to talk about, but
But
from
that's,
what I understand, that's not even possible.
no, well, I think he closed it down as soon as the one up at the corners opened up. So, I just don't know what we would do with it.
No, it's not. When you look at on Wingis like that from a topical view, you can really tell where, I even thought for bathrooms, public bathrooms, but it's too far away from everything.
Right. And I guess the other thing is I didn't look at the UDO, but with current setbacks and everything, and again, we already have a downtown area that because of, grandfather, or whatever you want to call it, you've got on-street public parking, but if somebody were to build a new building today, wouldn't the UDO require them to have on-site parking?
Yes.
Yep. So what do you do with it? If about the only thing it could be is a parking lot.
Unless there was some, I'm just spitballing, maybe some EV plug-in or something like that, but even that,
Well, but
we
again,
wouldn't have any interest unless there was grant money or something.
well, it would come back to just like what we attempted with the last go around on, and when, obviously, we did not get any consideration on that, but yeah, that would be, but again, it comes back to be a parking lot with some allocated spots, just like we had talked about with our existing parking lot. You know, okay, if we can get an EV supply, let's allocate a couple spots in that parking lot for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, at this point in time, I cannot see a justification for, you know, making an offer of any shape or kind.
I'm in agreement. I just wanted to get that on there, so it's been talked, it's discussed. This unused alley, unless we think the budget, I was gonna move that up. In case that took a while. Because some of these other things, what I'm up to, a lot of this was, kind of piling up, and I just wanna get it on a meeting with Municode now, I wanna track it better, exactly. So these are not, most of these things are not, for,
Essential.
yeah, that we figured out tonight. So let's jump to the budget, Sally. That way you could leave if you want. Yeah, I'll let Sally take that maybe a little. I've only got a couple things I want to ask for. I mean, give it to you, but as I've understood with talking with Sally, a lot of this is the same year to year, right?
Yes, the changes that I made, I reduced, oh, wait a minute, did that not go through? Maybe I printed it before I did it. What do you guys have for office salaries?
11,500.
11,550.
Yeah, 11,550.
I've got, 953.
Is that going to be reduced?
Yes.
That's current budget. 11,550 on the proposed.
That's the, yeah.
So, anyway, that may be reduced. The split we have for the billing clerks in the front office, kind of went off the rails because last year when we did the supplemental appropriation, we moved some of it to community development, which reduced the other two funds. But the split for those was 60% O&M, 20% community development, and 20% general. And I don't know why we did it that way, but I had some lengthy conversations with the two ladies, and they spend about 90% of their time doing the utility billing. And so I'm recommending that we split their salaries 90% O&M, 10% community development.
We have two people spending 90% of their time on utility billing?
That's the majority of what they do.
That seems absurd.
No, that's what they were hired to do. And the 10% would be permits, other community type things.
With some of the things that we've implemented, is that going to make that a more efficient process?
It's taking time to get there. I mean, we're like halfway through the meters, so they're still scheduling meter replacements and taking care of that paperwork, billing, entering payments.
The majority of what they do is in regard to billing and receiving utility payments, dealing with all of the work orders. I mean, I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
well,
interrupted you, Kelly.
The work orders, again, at least that's not, it may be water system, but it's not billing. I'm just thinking,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just thinking, man, that's an awful lot of time for,
I mean, the majority of the phone calls they take care of are in relation to that. I mean, that is their
Closings.
primary function.
Yeah,
And then with the billing, having to now put it in an envelope, that
that
changed
took a
that.
little bit more, that does take a little bit more time. We bought the envelope folding machine, which has its good moments and bad moments, it's helpful. But
but the two are both on, what, approximately 30, how many hours a week?
yeah, 29.75.
So let's say 30, so you got
So 62
60
hours.
hours and 90, so 54 hours? I mean,
It's,
I just can't fathom that.
People are coming in, phones are ringing, they're doing billing, they're doing permits. But the permits, I mean, they're this much compared to everything else that they're doing.
yeah, it's the, it takes time for, property closings, buying and selling a property, and then there's the work orders to address that, and contacting the title companies, and
Delinquent
yes,
notices.
delinquent notices, past due notices, cutoffs, shut-offs.
So anyway, that's my recommendation. We're open, obviously, to whatever the board wants to do. Let's see, the park was rolled in. I rolled in the 165. And what I did is I put that into expenses and then determined how much I would need to balance. So coming in from reserves is 128,000. What else?
I know we talked about the sinking fund, and that's on here as well. The reason I put that on there, it's only 2,000 a year.
Mhm.
That seems very low to me, where I know in some others, for things like, for future projects, like parks or whatever it is, if that falls under this committee, shouldn't we be saving some money for such things, I guess? And I'm new to budgeting, so help me.
We could do an analysis and try to figure out, when the next project is, how much we think it's going to cost, and how we can.
Yeah, because the reality of it is, I don't disagree with you, but on the other side is we haven't had any significant projects in 10 to 12 years. So again, now, we just had we get the big one with the park or whatever, and I guess, we probably do have to kind of brainstorm a little bit and see, okay, what's on the horizon that, is there gonna be another park that needs an upgrade, or?
Yes.
Yeah, identify what it is, and then, as you look at those projects and figure out what the potential cost is, and then, yes, you might have to allocate a certain amount of money every year to be prepared for those.
And that, again, I'm back to the public restrooms that we don't have. It's funny to me that I could not notice that before I got on this board, but having a porta pot out in our park, I think that's absurd. I wish we
Kind of
could.
a Band-Aid to.
Well, I tell you
We
what,
need to do something.
I don't disagree with you, but in many places I go, you're hard pressed to find any type of a public restroom facilities or whatever. You're usually looking for a gas station or a restaurant or whatever. I will say that, on my trip over the last couple of weeks, Charleston, South Carolina in particular, I was amazed because, you're in a public parking garage and there's a bathroom down on the lower level. You're walking through the town or whatever, and there's a sign, public toilets over. It surely made the nice touring visit, but that's a rarity.
Well, Park District just put one
Yeah.
in, up
Yeah.
there. Which I did get numbers on what they did. And then kind of ran it by Chad because we would have the plumbing here or in the ability with, because they hired that out. So he figured it, their numbers were 110 or 120,000 for that job. It would be down closer to 80, he thought, but these are off the cuff numbers.
So we have had discussion about trying to figure out where to get a facility, either the park or, the trailhead.
Yeah, in the park, well, yeah, maybe the trailhead does too.
Well, they're
What falls under community development? See, that's the other thing.
Actually, I mean,
Yeah,
as far as,
those would.
you get a lot of overlap though, because you're gonna rely on public works to do some of the work, but as
Right.
far as identification of projects and everything, I think this is kind of the location is a starting point for it. And we just, again, it's been a big ticket item, we've tried to pursue, grants, which without success, but,
And I believe there's room here at the park for one, with what we're over on that side. Now, I don't, again, this is all,
no, but this is
Preliminary.
important, because sometimes you gotta get the brainstorming in there.
that's it.
Yeah. But again, when you identify those, but yeah, even at 80 grand or whatever, we're not gonna fund that today, it might be a multi-year.
That's why I'm bringing it up with this sinking fund question, is that something we can increase there?
Well, and I'm wondering, with the money that we have from the hail damage, we had to get a new furnace today, so I'm like, hail damage. But before the furnace, I was going to roll 163,000 back into the general fund, there really isn't a plan.
Well, and that's where we, and maybe when we get beyond the village administrator or whatever, we have some focus, because obviously everybody wants a bite of that pie, and, there's discussion on, new infrastructure, buildings and whatever, and, that's gonna be a 7-digit project.
Yeah, that hail money isn't gonna be
Well, I mean,
split in
it's-
that,
Yeah, every little bit helps, but again, you gotta figure out, where is it? Is it a bathroom for the parks? Is it a garage for the vehicles? Is it to replace this building? What is the life expectancy of this particular building? And I'm not
2
saying.
years ago.
Pardon?
2 years ago.
Well, but I mean,
I'm just kidding, but yeah.
But yeah, we have to really look at that. What is, where are we? What is the reasonable life that we look at, and then start putting the priorities on them, because otherwise you're reacting to things all the time. And you're gonna have to get these things out of there to do a, 5 or 10 year projection on, because where's your revenue streams gonna be? Do you have to approach, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but if you gotta do these things, or the other one that comes up frequently under, public works that there's never any funding for, stormwater related issues. So, okay, if you're gonna have to take care of it, and now we're picking up sidewalks and stuff, which we haven't picked up in the past. And, there's gotta be a funding mechanism for these things.
Well, and who's in charge of, for instance, this building? Because we don't have regular maintenance, and we don't really have a plan for how that's going.
Well, and again, based on the talent that you have, if there's needs on there, you got two choices. You either use existing staff or you contract it out. The only place you're going to have staff is Public Works. But depending on what that burden is, then that would have to identify, is there another staff required? Because again, you're not gonna have a dedicated staff person for maintenance of this building. It just doesn't make sense. But, you got one within the village, in the skilled labor in that regard is the Public Works, and they would be the ones to do it. It's just, trying to figure out a system that they recognize, hey, maintenance of all the buildings is somebody's in public. And again, this will be where with the administrator starts to identify it is, okay, yeah, the effect of the repair is gonna be Public Works, but, who decides and who manages it, who identifies it, all that stuff's gotta be figured out.
And, Kelly and I don't know the maintenance schedule for the roof, or things that are beyond our expertise. So, how do we come up with, just like a schedule?
Well, and it probably is similar to we're talking there right now, it's probably gonna be a joint meeting at some point with, maybe somebody from community development, somebody from public works, and, the administrator, okay, we have this building, we have this building, we have this building, we have this building, what is the current state of repair? When was the last roof put on this building or that building or whatever? And you're only gonna get a 20 to 25-year life, depending on how that roof was constructed. If we're 19 years into it, we know probably we're gonna need some roof repairs in the next 5 or 6 years. And then, obviously, we've got some knowledge even on this committee that's got some idea, okay, we got, 2,000 square foot of roof, it's, so much per square foot, at least for a back of the envelope budget of, kind of where it's gotta be. And then like a lot of the other things is, public works can't do it all. You're just gonna have to make those decisions. When do you contract somebody out? And when can you do it yourself?
I guess I'm sitting here, I'm listening, I'm trying to wrap my head around how the budgeting works. I've seen in police now, but this is my first year of that. So what I kind of don't get is, okay, the sinking funds are savings accounts, are they not?
Pretty much.
Basically, yes.
So I may have misunderstood, but so you have to have we have to name that there's gonna be a project before we can up the savings account? I don't understand that.
Not necessarily. But part of it is when you gotta have a balanced budget at the end of the year. It's pretty hard to sell putting some money into a fund if we have no clue what we're gonna use it for, if we're short in other places. And then the other piece that makes it really challenging, and again, and this will be something for, as we move forward in this transition on the, administrator, is the challenge that we really have is Public Works has a staff, the police department has a staff, the office has a staff. There's no staff in community development.
Well, the budget has it all.
Well, I know that, but you get a budget, but you don't really have you got a couple participants, but we gotta figure out is, there's gotta be somebody that owns these things, that's an employee to take care of the day-to-day responsibilities. And that's where community development has always been a challenge, is because we do have a couple staff people at least participating, but for the better part of the 12 years I've been, we didn't.
Well, you just said there was no project in that,
Well, I mean, there'd be projects, but once community development identified a need, it would become a board item. But it is a little bit challenging when, you're trying to guide something, but you don't have actual staff members.
Well, the other park is Greenlee Park. I don't know, I mean, what?
We also have the old,
The Herd Park.
what do you call the one over, where the other two baseball diamonds are at?
The athletic,
Yeah,
No, that's Park District.
that's
Yes.
school, actually, isn't it?
School.
I thought we owned it.
I thought we did too.
Yeah, I thought we did too.
I'm pretty sure we own the athletic field.
Athletic field?
No,
With the two
No?
diamonds is,
We have
I don't think
bird
that's
park.
ours. 'cause
Maybe it's
that's
just that we mow it.
We mow it to
Well,
go.
Yeah,
those
we
are-
know it,
But see, those are some of the other things,
I already did this. Herd Park is ours.
Yeah.
There's three, Memorial, Herd, and Greenlee. So now Herd, when we discussed, I had that committee, and Herd doesn't seem, I don't know that it needs anything. Nobody could come up with anything.
The only thing
So-
it'll come up with is when all of a sudden we've hit the end of life on the lighting system.
Okay,
We've just replaced scoreboard. So that was kind of
During the
taken,
pandemic.
during
in
the pandemic and
2020.
hail and all that other one. We keep, Band-Aiding the lighting system or whatever. If that will be the one, that's gonna catch it. Now, the other thing we probably would need to understand, probably from a repair and maintenance and also a liability standpoint, is the overall condition of the bleachers that are over there. You know, if they become in disrepair and somebody gets hurt on something, that's something we, probably gotta become aware of. And then we did put some concrete and stuff in that little pavilion over there.
Yes, yes. But Greenlee is the untouched one here, and, I know we're doing one, we're revamping this one. If I lived over there, I'd be wondering why that one, and I don't know what we want to do with that either. I don't know, when a park is given to you in a subdivision like that, it should remain a park forever type of thing, and then those people should have it as a park?
It was dedicated as a park.
And so therefore, it becomes our responsibility, I think, to update it.
Well, and then I guess the question would be is it in disrepair? I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really tell you how much.
It's very underutilized
Yeah,
as far as the equipment is, small.
And
Anyway,
I don't know whether that was
small here.
village purchased equipment or whether it was donated as part of the park. I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't know.
probably back when that was put in place.
There was a kind of a community participation in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I thought that was part of when they did it to begin with.
Yeah.
But they weren't maintaining it or anything.
Yeah, and years ago, it did get a lot more use.
Because there's a lot more younger families.
Yeah, I mean, when we moved in here or whatever, I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and most of our neighbors were that way. You got a considerable amount of use, but we haven't had a tremendous amount of turnover in there, so there's not a lot of young kids over there. And, somebody at Rush Farms or something's probably not even thinking, well, gee, if I'm gonna go to a park, am I gonna go to Greenlee, am I gonna go here? But it's probably one of those things, I don't know that there's anything immediately there, but it's probably gotta, be placed on a.
That's all I'm back to the sinking fund. These are the things, if we're gonna need to put items on, public restrooms. I consider community development to be those kind of things.
Yep.
Not the fun, maybe the fun stuff.
Well, it's two parts. One, and then it may change a little bit in some economic development.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and so really, but maybe part of it is in the short term is a simple brainstorming, kind of like so at least you get them on a list. We have no idea what we're gonna do with them now, but we just, hey, as we discuss things from time to time, we gotta kind of keep, on these radar, what do we need to do with these things?
And I think it's a really good idea to have that list because traditionally, I'm not saying that currently, but traditionally, community development has always been the place people look for the money. To say, well, community development's not doing anything, so they got some money in their budget, let's pay for it out of community.
And I
development.
was just gonna bring up the feasibility study. Did that not, for the hotel, didn't that come out of this?
Yes.
So, there's something in it, I don't know when we have the money. I mean, this budget is nowhere near the other two budgets.
No.
So that's what I'm wondering. Is there room for some of these projects to up this budget of this? I'm not versed like you and Julie are on the overall whole.
Well, there's a lot of holes, it's like Swiss cheese, there's a lot of holes in it because some of them it's more of a reactionary thing. It's not very highly proactive. And part of it is just not a lot of excess funds available unless, but we need to be prepared for those because in the event some grant opportunity comes along, we wanna, if you get some of the quote shovel-ready project, you hate to come in there and say, well, gee, yeah, we probably could have done a park repair, but we have no idea what we're gonna do. So even if we can't move forward with it, we got at least have some plan.
And there's also in development, economic development, hopefully, and then that gives us more revenue. I am meeting Friday with that John Green is interested in the development. He was meeting with Frank, but he's unavailable at this moment.
Oh, you're talking about.
I was gonna ask you to come, but we're on the same committee, so that's not gonna work.
You gotta
So
disclose it on a public, but you're talking about Highlands properties? Development Highlands properties?
the one, Frank had brought it up before, it's down there by the old storage units.
Is that the Kohler property? Is it?
Don't
I
know
think
what,
that's what I've seen it listed on the emails.
you're right, it is on the emails. So I'm gonna, I tried to get that before this meeting, but it wasn't gonna work out for us to meet. So Yeah, John Green is his name. Here he is. Kohler property. 27 acre property. I know he's a developer that's interested in it. So
Who owns that? He's Kohler?
they call it the Kohler, K-O-E.
Cooler property. I don't know.
The Koehler,
Yes.
which was what Sullivan was. I mean, that Kohler owned that property.
It's an L shape, goes around Hodgton's there property, the Denny's.
So Sullivan bought a piece of their property, and they still have other property that they would be interested in selling if somebody was, came up with that.
I think it's in the, I'm not sure if she's still alive, but it was Alberta Kohler. And I think it's now the Alberta Kohler Trust.
Yeah.
Chad and Frank both had talked with him, spoke with him.
What's the individual's name? Green?
John Green. Green.
Yeah, and again, certainly without a better alternative or whatever, taking a lead on that is appreciated, but I believe that's one of the principal reasons we're trying to do
I
this
know.
change of structure, because that way there you got somebody who is an employee and in the office and available to follow these things through.
And that, exactly, I just didn't want to leave him hanging.
I absolutely not.
I'm just gonna take notes and, you know.
Gather information, come back, and so people can.
Yes. Try to answer anything I can, but I don't know. But anyway, that, you know, and back to the point, more development, more revenue.
Oh, absolutely,
That-
absolutely.
That's the good
And
stuff.
I foresee with whoever we hire in for the admin position, I foresee them wanting to make quite a bit of development, or, because they're gonna be seeing everything as a like new broad perspective. So I think I mean, the plans that we're gonna come up with are gonna be very centered in on the, you know, economic development of either the outskirts or downtown area.
I would think that's gonna be one of their primary responsibilities, and
Boy, if you can do that stuff full time, oh, so many doors open.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, when you're trying to slide that in on a part-time, you know, you got other things you're doing, and you've got, okay, yeah, I can meet with you, every Wednesday. Well, wait a minute, what about Monday?
Yeah,
So having somebody in an office available more often, it's long overdue.
so to get past this budget, what do we need to do next?
I did notice that 11,550 is changed to 56. I think it's 56. I didn't write it down, but the
Which,
total ends up being 308, 320 for the expenses.
Oh, are you talking about that first line item? It's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
11,550
It's
anymore?
basically half of that, it's 56 something, but, this is just for input, to be honest, Vivian Gaines used to do this budget, and then when she left, I just started rolling it through, you know, so it's for you to decide if Jason, if you want to increase that sinking fund, we could talk about, some estimates on projects and put together a little plan.
yeah, I didn't know, you know, I sit there and now that I'm through the police committee budget, I see more of what you can do to, you know, it's not like they're getting any real numbers though, necessarily.
They're basing
Maybe
it
on a
on
big
cars.
ticket item.
Well, on many of the
Cars and
things.
equipment.
But again, the police and the public works, again, there's some creativity in there, but for the most part, the biggest portion of each of those budgets is the labor.
Yes,
And we kind of know what that number is gonna be and the benefits and everything go with it. You know, we know we got road projects for public works, we know we got, so those are tangible things. The community development is gonna be a little bit more, because we don't have a specific thing, so right now it's a dream list. And the question is how many of those dreams might come in effect in 2024? You know, and even if they don't, yeah, I do agree with you, there's gonna be some things that need to be done, so it would be nice to build up that fund. So if things do become available, you can act upon them, other than, oh, that's a great idea, but there's no budget, where do you get it from?
yes. If a public restroom is how we want to go, which I haven't heard anybody object to that yet. and we can't do it in 24, then I think we should at least throw some money towards saving towards it, but that's where I'm at.
Sally, what did you say that first number is gonna be, or do you know?
I'll just go look. $55.61.
Thank you.
So I guess, yeah, and so if we just really started from top to bottom, again, that office salaries is mainly, however, the final allocation is. We know we're paying our code enforcement officer as well as the building inspector. We don't know what the amount we're gonna be paying for electrical inspector and plumbing inspector, but we've got some history, so we try to at least identify, something that is in there.
So Sally, the 165 rolled over, so that's really less the 3/4, the total, right?
The way that it works is because I'm plugging in on the revenue side, it offsets. So it has to be in the expenses so that we can spend it, but then we fill in on the revenue side to balance. So I brought in 128 on the revenue side to balance it, the overall budget.
And that's your transfer in line.
Mm-hmm. And that transfer out is 18,000, and that's the exact amount of the fireworks. And what we've done in the past is we accept donations, and I only transfer an amount that is
Necessary.
So we typically don't. Last year we had kind of a rough year with donations.
Yeah, it was.
But typically we get, like 7,000-ish in donations, sometimes 10. It just depends, so.
And has there been, did I hear at one point that there might be some activity going on to kind of get some of that recatalyzed a little bit, or?
I haven't heard.
So, good chances we'll eat the whole thing again. So.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no interest by anybody to kind of jump into that,
To what?
do the fundraising.
Take the lead on the fundraiser and the 4th of July committee and stuff that we.
Yeah, no, that fizzled, that person, it just won't. And
They just couldn't get enough help. You can't do it all by yourself, and.
Maybe for this upcoming year, we could just, I'm not trying to put more stuff on office staff, but even just a letter to the people who went before, who gave over the years. I just think business-wise that it's not going to be the same as I'm knocking on the doors, I get it, but it's the cost of a stamp.
And I do have some reservation. I don't mind, only because you said knocking on a door. Did we actually do that?
They probably did a lot of phone calls more than knocking on doors, but they were active trying to.
Generate.
I mean, I know that one year they actually went to businesses.
Well, yeah, as I say, phone call, it could be knocking on doors, it could be phone calls, it could be direct
Oh, okay.
correspondence.
I was gonna say, or could we not, create lock boxes and at the permission of businesses around here, can we make donation
For
boxes?
people to,
Yeah, we could,
Oh.
but it takes somebody to take the lead on it, and, and
We
that's
had
what,
some-
and that's,
I'm sorry. I
no,
thought
so
you were
that's
done.
kind of what the group did or whatever, is they went out there and they did the solicitations, and then you walk in the streets and knocking on the doors and phone calls and letters. But yeah, in Culver, and again, Culver's has been very good about doing some of those, but somebody's got to lead those projects, and that's what that committee was doing.
Okay, in lieu of that, I gotta ask, without getting myself in trouble, why do we have to fundraise to do that? Why can't we give our community something like that with
We could.
their money?
We absolutely, that's exactly what we did last year. And in absence of, community volunteers, that's what it's gonna be. If we want the fireworks, it's gonna be a village expense.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things or whatever, you just try to get a little bit of a community spirit and community participation and, but again, we probably have evolved to the point where once you've lost it, it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah.
But didn't it work pretty well when they walked in the parade? Like,
Yeah, we picked up, $1,500 here and there. And then it used to be too, they would also, when you had the volunteers, they would not only walk the parade, but they would also walk the fireworks. But that's another place where we've lost the volunteers on there, so, passing the can, I mean, really, that's not a hard volunteer job to do, that one right there. And it has a really good return on it. I mean, Frank and I, the one year, just the two of us walked that parade, we came in with $1,200.
I thought I remembered it.
So that was, when you think about it, that's 2 hours of volunteer time at $1,100, that's $550 an hour. That's probably about the most efficient, but, in different times, we found it very helpful at the parade that you at least have 4 people. Because it's kind of like pheasant hunting. The first people there kind of kick up the pheasants and everybody kind of reaches in their pocket like, do I have money or whatever, and the person coming picks up the money. So.
I had Rachel do some research on Venmo and some other sites you can do from your phone, and I just haven't had the time to go through the data, and I have to know if it's okay for us to do that.
Yeah, and that's it.
I know other communities do it.
And I think it probably is, once we figure out, there's probably gotta be an ordinance passed, but that's what's happening anymore is, oh, I don't have any money, but everybody's got their phone in their hand, and Salvation Army, when we ring the bell there or whatever, now they got the code right there or whatever, hey, if you don't have any money and you'd like to donate, scan it with your phone, and there's your donation.
Maybe that's what we could do, put a QR code on our utility bills.
Yes.
Well, and then that becomes volunteer donations
Yeah.
rather than soliciting them.
Right.
I'm not,
Well, and the thing about it
That's
is,
I
exactly
get what you're
right.
talking about, but I'm not a fan of the solicitation.
you can volunteer in 2 ways, time or money. And some people right now, maybe their time is more valuable to them, but they're more than happy to cough up a few bucks if we can just try to keep
That's right.
the way, and yeah, whatever we can
Give them an avenue to donate.
Exactly.
Well, and also though, I remember seeing one time on the community page that somebody was remarking, well, I was at the parade, but they didn't come by
Yeah,
for donations this year. So I don't think people are really adverse.
No, they're not.
I really don't. Not here at least.
No, they're pretty, if we put the people out there, we will get some results.
Because nobody's strong arming them, it's like, just, you want to donate? I mean, that's how, at least how I envision it. It seems to work.
But yeah, I understand what you mean because, they are paying us their tax money and then we're asking them for more. And even though it is passive, it's still a little bit aggressive, whereas if we just we do have it on our website where they can do a donation. People have to know about it though.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that may be, because of the lack of volunteers, that may be exactly where we're gonna be, is it's gonna be funded by the village. But if we could find some few different easy ways of, if the time was available, we do learn, even some of the businesses, hey, put something here or whatever, and if the people wanna make it, because a lot of people don't like carry coins anymore, and nobody use for cash, but if you got, 18, 20 cents here, I don't want this jiggle in my pocket anyway, so.
Yeah, we could look at a QR code that would go right to our website, to the 4th of July login. We could do it there.
And maybe I don't know, but on the front page around that time, if you could have something that catches their attention, want to donate, and then it can lead them to wherever they go, versus being somewhere, maybe a page later that they wouldn't see.
Well, and maybe as we, learn a little bit more about, our efforts on the social media or whatever, we could,
Right.
get, soft solicitations out there, hey, fireworks are coming up, if you'd like to contribute. It's a request, it's not a demand, and, whatever happens, happens.
It makes it easy too, when they can click, it's all linked up. I know, I mean, I donate that way. All right, again, how do we get past this budget?
Well, just kind of look down, do we have
Do
anything?
you want me to, increase the sinking fund and, or do you wanna, outside of the meeting, try to come up with a number? Because
We won't come up with one before the budget needs to be done. We just, I mean, we're at the 1st of December tomorrow, so.
we don't have to pass the budget by the end of the year. We can do it in January.
Well, we won't know, we're not gonna know a whole lot more at the end of this month than we know right now. So I guess if you could, bump an extra 1,000 or something in there and, you can always take it out if you can't get things balanced or whatever.
Right now, is it 12,000 in the sinking fund? Sorry, I don't have my paper here. 12,000.
That's not,
So
has it been 12? Was it more, or did we pull some of it out to be part of the 165? Or?
I have not done that. I was gonna ask if that should offset. I would just, for me, I would deplete it, but it's still part of that transfer in. I would just notate it in the transfer in.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to deplete it only from the standpoint, and again, is it a park equipment sinking fund, or is it a project community? You just hate to see if we got the thing done and something else popped up, that we didn't have any available funds for it.
We could call it park maintenance. We could change what it's called,
Or
and that
Or-
would make it more,
park fund, capital maintenance, whatever the right word is, I think it would be some of both, because if something does have to be repaired or replaced, you've got something available to do it.
It has to be that specific when we do this.
No, that was kind of what my question was, and, whether, because we do have the community projects line. Now, do we know, right now, this year is because of the big playground, but we've always had some funds in the community project. So, what's the difference between the community project and then a sinking fund making it available for?
That could be combined almost.
um,
All I'd like to see is some money.
Or is it community projects sinking fund, which the parks are part of the community projects?
Right.
exact, well, the sinking fund was just designed because we wanted to have that set aside for
Right.
maintenance. Because this fund doesn't it doesn't have a lot of revenue streams. It's
Right.
franchise fees, now there's video gaming and liquor. And that has changed everything, really. But it's just the idea that there would be something set aside, and when did I come to the committee? Like 10 years, 6 years ago, because it's 2000.
Yeah, I would say that wasn't 10, but it was more than 2, so yeah.
See, because it was 2,000 a year for 6 years, so, that's.
It just, I don't know, it's such a small amount.
What if we turned it into 5? Is that still just a drop in the bucket for what you were thinking?
It depends on if you're saying that after 24, so you go through 24, we need to figure out is public restrooms something we want and we need to budget for? Or are we going to save it, under community projects for, I'd like to see that in 2 years or something like that. I would like to see it this year, but obviously that is not gonna happen. waste
Is there
time.
some way to make it a two-phase project?
I
Could
don't
we
know.
run the plumbing the first year and then build it the second year? And this is coming from someone who doesn't know how this gets done.
Well,
Probably not.
well, your question is probably, has some legitimacy to it. I don't know how much digging is going to be done to install the equipment, but if you're disturbing the soil there, that would be the perfect opportunity to put the plumbing in, but they really can't put the plumbing in if they don't have an idea where the bathroom's gonna go.
Yeah, it's going to have to be engineered. and figured
Yeah,
out.
like at the park district to tie in the sewer, it was like 300 feet away, so.
Yeah, we're fortunate we won't have that kind of distance,
Yeah,
but we would at least have some type of, a rough engineering drawing. Okay, here's the park layout, which we kind of already talked about. Okay, now, where would a bathroom fit in on here? You know, there was a reason, and I'd have to talk to Chad, that we kept talking about having it over by the trailhead as opposed to over here. But I really think that he would be pulling the infrastructure in from these other buildings, because that was what they were talking about, the train depot or whatever, for accessibility.
And well, now that we have the parking lot here too, I think that would be,
Yeah.
I can't really remember how much like space is in between that and the trail, but I think that would also be.
Well, that's one of the reasons before we put the parking lot, our plan was to try to get a pavilion there with a restroom and, but yet we only had enough to do what we did, and so we got the parking lot in. But I think, Jason, maybe the thing to do is, let's, try to dig in. I think it's a viable project, so we probably just gotta start digging in a little bit and try to.
Instead of changing we could change it 1,000 or 5 to 5 or something, but I don't think that's enough. Yes, I think that's dropping the bucket. So we work at trying to budget it for the next year.
Yeah, or you start building a little bit up this year, so let's say it is 12, if we got 5 this year, then we do, okay, next year, instead of a 5, we need a 7, to get the 12 we need, or see how other things play out with the video gaming and everything, maybe we exceed the revenue
Yeah,
expectation.
where's all that money going?
Well, $20,000 is a liquor license. Oh yeah, we only got the gaming fees, so video gaming, now you got there's all the budget that's coming in on, the income side. So it is showing up in the community development.
Yeah, true.
This year, it's going to the playground.
Yeah. Well, some of that was cool. Okay, so I don't know the process for this. Is this something what do I do with this budget? Hold on.
I think normally what we've if we've had a relative consensus of the committee, usually it's, the recommendation is to turn this budget into the finance or the budget committee to try to work it in.
So, I'm here saying, do you want anything else in the budget? Do you want this changed? And then I'll take it to finance.
Okay, and we can
So,
talk about that outside of this meeting is what I
yes.
understand.
Yeah.
All right, let's,
If we're in relative agreement, but knowing there's gonna be some finesse, it's not like we're like way out in left field somewhere. I mean, the real issue we're talking about, some of these numbers are known and are pretty, pretty firm. The biggest issue is just trying to figure out, is there a project that we can do above and beyond the playground equipment and, if we were gonna do it, is the funding available for it?
okay.
Well, and I'll tell you, I saw when I was putting the budget together, I was like, what did we get in miscellaneous for 13,000? And I went and looked and, well, we sold a plot of land.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So get on it, Jason, let's get those bathrooms.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah, see, that could change the budget in a hurry if some of those properties that we own we sell it.
Yeah, it goes right into community development, so.
And there is, of that 165 for the park, the park is not costing that. That is, got some extra in it too, but that was because we didn't know we'd like to redo the basketball court and, that's part of the park. So there's some money left there that could possibly go to that if we don't, it's not just playground equipment, it's trying to make it all look
Right,
nice.
exactly.
So,
And that's why a few minutes ago, we're talking about, okay, it is the capital of the parks, it is the maintenance of the park. So it's not just equipment, it's really the whole park.
yeah,
Mhm.
all right, I guess that is enough of that.
So it's just gonna be that the consensus of the committee is to pass the budget on to finance, pretty much, and generally as it's written.
If you can get an
Unless
extra couple
Jason
thoughts.
gets some land sale and then we'll throw in the bathrooms.
Or you can juice up that, sinking fund.
Oh, you mean this
Or
Friday?
we could, it doesn't have to be Jason.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Sell. All right. Some of these other items, so back up to B here, unused alleys in the village. The only that got mentioned a few months ago in zoning. I was at a zoning meeting. And Bill Emmert mentioned this. Kelly has a map. There are, all it really amounts to is there are supposedly alleys in properties. I know my neighbor has one where it's all part of the lots, right? There's no alley there.
The property is extended to occupy what was once an alley.
Yes, but it's not official that way. Am I saying that right?
We don't know for sure.
Would that
There's
then
no
been
legal
vacated?
description, right?
If they've been vacated, we don't know that.
So,
So technically, they might have infringed on our alleys.
Might have.
and he wanted us to attempt to clean it up in the future. That's all I have that on there
Well,
for.
and that's good. I think at this point it's on there and you gave us a 5-second, summary of why it's there. And then we just gotta figure out how we deal with it going forward.
Kelly's gonna talk to Chad because there's easements and alleys on that map. We kind of gotta figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it on there because it had been a few months and Bill did ask us.
So that it may not be all alleys is what.
Exactly.
That's what I'd like for him to, look at and see if it's an easement or is it a true alley.
Do we have a better map?
Well, so that we're not researching things that are easements.
Right.
Right.
Although it would also
Utility
be nice to know when we got certain of those easements, but that's a whole nother project.
Yeah.
Okay, the Unified Development Ordinance. Okay, the UDO, you mentioned it earlier, happened to touch on it with that when we were talking about the property over here, the car wash. Under acre lots, I'd even shrink it to under 3/4 acre lots. The landscaping, and I know this from experience now because of our business we put up, the landscaping section of the UDO is too restrictive for the smaller lots. We have to do something. And an idea that came up in zoning, and I'm not the only one who thinks, this was, that's why I was at that zoning meeting. Riley was there, Bill agrees there's issues with it. So what happens is there's so much landscaping required that your project shrinks, and it would have probably killed our project, okay, that we put up. Because it starts to be, why do it?
Well, yeah, if you get that much property and you can't get enough buildings there.
The hopefully easy way out.
That's Jason.
Mary's gonna pipe in here. No, I would like to see the old ordinance, which could be, side note, could be adjusted to include some landscaping if we don't like how it reads currently, okay? Because it doesn't require very much, I get that. But anyway, that the old 57 ordinance apply to the smaller lot sizes of, Frank thought an acre or less. I even think 3/4 if you go to Wingis and start clicking on the old part of town, you're usually under 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, well, you probably many less than that.
They are. This one here, that's for sale on the corner. that one is a third acre. And
Well, and I think the car wash was 2 plots of 1/10 of an acre apiece, so the
Yes.
combined was only 2/10.
yes, and that, it just isn't gonna work. The UDO then would apply to the over 3/4 or acre for the north side of town, of course. Because I think, and I was gonna ask that, are we selling those in acre lots? Do we sell any smaller lots down there? I
Are you
wouldn't
talking
think-
about the
The
land
Highland-
we own, the
the Highland
Highlands
stuff.
land we own?
Yeah, you only got platted recently, and I think they were,
Well,
I don't know.
there's.
Well, the condos,
The condo
they're not an
ones.
acre.
I think that, are
Well,
they 3/4?
I'm just trying to remember from when we did that. If they're not an acre, they're close.
and I think you're right, Mike, that it's probably, I mean, I didn't do the math. So half acre and 3/4 acre, somewhere there is where it's at.
Well, no, I-
Mine was
I think I know
0.4.
I think I know exactly where you're coming from. We have to identify, which you've already started to do, the pieces of property that we would hope that somebody would develop.
Yeah,
And then take a realistic look at it or whatever, and again, I think as long as everything is even, it's like, yeah, you're gonna pick a side and say, hey, if your property is over this, we need these requirements. If your property is less than that, you need these requirements. So I don't think that's,
but the reason I picked this way of doing it, we could go into the UDO, which actually has 2 landscaping requirements, and that's a whole different discussion. But it does state in there that if one is more restrictive than the other, actually, that's a state statute, I believe. But if one is more restrictive than the other, you use the more restrictive of the 2, okay?
The state statute is basically saying that we, as a community, cannot be less restrictive than the state, but we can be more restrictive.
And since there is 2 landscaping sections of the UDO, one of them would have, puts less landscaping on the lot, and the other one puts more. And you would go by the restrictive one. So the point being, Dollar General, if you like the way that looks, that's what the UDO does. And it looks, I get it. But you can't have those 10-foot after the public right of way, then you have 10 feet of landscaping and then try to put your buildings on, see that, or driveways, parking lots, all of that.
Mary, would you do this, would you more likely take that on the size of property, or would you break the village down into zones?
That's what I tried, Mike. You're on to something.
Well, the reality of it is, if we've got vacant property that's being developed, that's one set of rules, but if you got this piece of property that's between the nurse, not the nursery, but the preschool and the insurance, I mean, if that's your plot, if you're so restricted, it's gonna remain a piece of grass forever. So in that particular case, whether, it's size or whatever, you'd have to look at that and say, okay, what would somebody do? And maybe because of every other building is, 0 lot line. Are you gonna have an entire block that's 0 lot line, but now you're gonna have a new building and require them to have 10-foot setbacks off of everything? Or could they adopt what that segment of the community was?
Yeah, see, and I had a problem with that, and Jason and I had talked about that, because he wanted certain for like downtown area or whatever, and I said, you're much safer doing it by lot size, because then you're not discriminating by saying, well, if you're in this part of town, you get to do it this way, but if you're in this part of town,
Well,
you gotta do it a different
it wouldn't
way.
be really discriminating, it's like, all of a sudden, if everything is one way, and whether you went above or you went below, you're gonna have an oddball in there. So how would you, but again, how would anybody build on that piece of, I mean, it's about this wide, and maybe,
Then they would get a variance. And that's what Jason's trying to avoid,
yes,
basically.
well, you don't, because
But there are ways, you get a variance.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how you deal, because there are many islands of, not islands is how we normally talk about islands, but vacant properties with no buildings on them that could be developed, but
You can't really get a variance though for hey, my buildings, I want to build bigger buildings than what this is allowing. That's the problem. The variance is that starts to be, you have to have specific reasons why this isn't gonna work. So that's why I'm trying to,
And then in essence, it won't work, period.
just won't work. You have
Not
to
just
prove it.
that I can't have the size building I want, but that it won't work.
And I'm trying to find that middle ground, yes. And I should add too that this may, if it's zoned industrial, things change. I did look heavy into industrial, what that requires because I'm sure Dollar General is probably a business zoning. I should have looked that
Probably,
up.
general business.
So this applies to general business mostly, which is what we are probably gonna zone mostly, for.
But on some of these smaller lots, I mean, how many of these smaller lots would somebody in a general business actually be able to, with the old ordinance or the new ordinance, I mean?
It's the ones that might turn it, my concern is the ones that might change. So, okay, some of these are old, and I don't want it to be that anymore. I'm gonna tear this down and put up something new. They're not gonna put a house, which is maybe what was intended by, or somebody foresaw that hopefully the UDO, now you can have this become residential over here in your business district over there. I don't know, but I don't think that would require all the businesses to go away at once, because who's gonna start building houses in between the businesses? So I was kind of thinking of it that way. What happens 10, 20 years if the granary goes away? They're done, they're gonna tear that down. What does that become? Somebody would build a business before they put a house on it, I think. There's one right down here in the middle of town I would love to discuss, but we're gonna run out of time. It's a great, but it's a piece that, again, if somebody buys it to put a business there, I'm not sure of the rules on that, when it's in a strip mall type situation.
The zero lot line issues, that's what I was referring, because, again, you got property, and you run your hand down the street, and you never if everything is, well, maybe it's on the facade or the fascia, it's all together, and there's spacing on the buildings and behind the facade, but.
I just don't think the old business district is gonna become houses someday, but that's why I'm bringing it up. I mean, we didn't with that piece of property, and we made it a business.
How long it's been there, ever since I've been around?
Which one?
Just, you want to talk about the one by just south of the post, right? Is it the one you're talking about? The house or?
No, the Bud's Auto down here is what
Oh,
I'm
you're talking
talking
about this
about.
side of the street.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of the street, there's like a house there, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Used to be the clerks,
Yeah,
the village
It
clerks.
looks like a little schoolhouse or something.
yeah.
Anyway, for future discretion, but I got it on there. I
No,
think
well,
this was good.
it needs some discussion, and, I don't know what the right answer is, but, it's gonna take probably a few powwows or whatever to try to get everybody, focused on it or whatever, but I understand where you're coming from. I don't know the answer, but I understand where you're coming from.
It's more difficult. And I too think that your local residents may be the ones who build on these older parts of town, as I am. So, actual residents of the town. That's our corporate side to the north. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the intent.
Small business.
Yeah.
Okay, the safe routes to school, that I had totally messed up. It is not a thank you yet letter. It was, I dropped the ball on it. It was sent to me in September. It was a
Letter of support.
It still haven't messed up.
I read the
We didn't
letter.
need it. Yeah, it was very nice. And then we did need it, but now we don't need it because I guess you guys got or no, you didn't. Oh, that's great. That's probably why I didn't get the letter. So that's.
I don't know that a decision has been rendered.
Okay.
On the grant,
Right.
I haven't heard an answer.
Yeah.
It was submitted, I think, October 8th.
Yeah, it's been submitted. I don't think we have an answer yet.
To keep Illinois beautiful, medication drive, Mike. What I'm finding out, I brought this up at Police First last night because the it seems to be where we're at, is not, the drive went well. I think there was, I remember last night I looked it up, 72 cars. There was, there was
It's nothing like it was the first couple of years.
so whether we decide to keep doing it, the problem we have is the storage. It's in there. It wasn't that bad. We had a spot, it's locked up, all the medication, but we missed, I don't know why, how, but there's only 2 times a year the DEA will take that stuff. And that's the only way you can get rid of it. So we end up storing it here.
Well, something changed from when we started. The first couple of years that we did it, it was a rounding success, especially the first year. I mean, we were hundreds of cars coming from everywhere because, it was the first opportunity for many people to get rid of these things. So we had a really good result the first year, and we had a lot of support from, village staff and some volunteers and, the hospital staff, the police. And at that time, when we got done with it or whatever, they took our narcotics, it went in the trunk of a police car, and they took it up McChesney Park or somewhere or whatever.
Yeah, there was somebody else.
The second year went really well too. We probably didn't have quite the demand because, this may not be an every year thing, but again, it was still pretty successful. The third or fourth year in there, all of a sudden, we showed up with, 3 or 4 village, volunteers, and they told us they didn't need us. So pretty much the hospital staff, doctor staff, so it's like, it's kind of got a little bit off the track the last few years or whatever, and, I guess there's 2 parts to this. One is hosting the drive, and then the other is, the annual donation we've been giving now.
Yeah, which is $1,400.
Yeah, and it was like, one, hey, we'll do this, but we'll do this, but you gotta give us a donation, and, and it's like, well, if we don't host it, maybe the point of conversation gotta be with these people, does it make sense to rotate your locations at different years or whatever? Because, maybe there's just, at 70-some cars, I'm not sure that.
She volunteered, this Pamela. She sent me an email because what it comes down to as far as the storage is that we could move the drive from June to April.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. If it's a timing issue, we need to talk to,
Then we wouldn't store it very long.
Yeah, we need to talk to Keep Northern Review for it. It's like, if we have this hurdle that not only the village of Winnebago, but every other participants, again, can we try to get your schedule lined up that we minimize that burden?
What she said was we could move it to April. She also said, maybe I can come talk in person. We can discuss this and maybe other events.
Do you remember what the years were when it had the best response?
We've been doing this 5 or 6 years now. So take 2017.
I looked, 2016.
Okay, well, that's not too bad. You only
Not
get off
too bad,
1 year.
Okay,
So-
because I was just looking up and I thought that there was something about this. There had been legislation passed in August 2016 where Walgreens, like 500 locations in Illinois, had basically started taking them all the time.
Yes, I brought,
Well, that would be the
So
other thing
that,
to understand
you
too.
know.
Is there as much of a need for this?
Right, and I think there were places before.
I found 17 places when I looked, when we were gonna do this in June.
Okay.
There's 17 places near us that you can go drop off.
Well, and if we have that, then that's where, probably Keep Northern Beautiful's got to kind of take a look at their projects and say, okay, this was needed. We appreciate you doing this or whatever, but, right now, if we only see 72 cars because there's 17 places, let's spend our time and resources in other ways.
Mhm. Why don't we have an electronics drive instead?
Well, maybe
Do
that,
too,
maybe.
right?
They did have one at,
Auditors.
what bank was that? It was like beginning of October. It was Midwest Bank up on Perryville. Oh my God, I should show you the picture. I was like, how am I ever gonna get to the end of this thing?
Maybe that's why she's saying other events.
Yes, and that one was pretty good because that was one, they were actually taking your TV and computer monitors and you didn't have to pay $25.
Yeah, right.
People were coming in with trailers.
Yeah.
So
I
maybe
think
we
our
should have her
residents would
sit here, huh?
appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
You wanna bring, I can
Yeah,
let her
she-
know to bring her in.
I support that organization personally and professionally, whatever. I think they're a great organization. But, maybe it is worthy of, spending, having her make a visit or whatever and just, okay, is the time passed for the medication drive, and is there better ways that we can work together, electronics drive or something?
Okay, I will let her know that.
Another thing that I don't know if they do specifically, I know our RWRD used to, where you can take chemicals and paint.
They do that on Saturday mornings
Yeah.
right by, whatever they call it now, but WRD.
Four Rivers.
Four Rivers, yeah.
On Kishwaukee
Yeah,
there.
they do, that's, right now, so I would say there's already an outlet there, they probably not gonna touch it. And even on their website, they refer people to that outlet for doing those type of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I collect my stuff up and, do there 3 times a year or something like that, move stuff off.
If somebody comes in like this, is that a public comment that she has to sign up for, or can she just come talk to us? How does that work?
Well, if you invite her to come, she can just
Yeah, it's
come
not
and talk
public.
at your request. That's not public comment.
Got
If
it.
she says, hey, I'd like to come and talk to you guys
Okay,
about something or other, then technically that's public comment, because she initiated it.
okay,
She still may initiate it, but we accepted her.
Yeah, if you
invitation.
accept it, yeah, I mean, if you say, hey, we want you to come to our meeting, it doesn't have to be.
I think it's a good organization to be connected with, because, and again, my opinion is the medical drive was really good. It's probably not an every year deal, and especially with what you're finding, maybe there's other opportunities now.
perfect. Okay, I will email her back and get that set up.
And she's been in the organization for quite a while. She's relatively new to the lead position, the county clerk.
It was
Yeah.
Gummo, yeah.
Come on,
Gummo.
she used to run that organization. She was top notch.
So on to the next, approval of fireworks vote. I mean, we know,
What is that relative to last year price?
$1,000 more.
yeah,
And they keep
I
checking.
thought it was the same, okay.
No, I think last year was 17.
I thought it was like 60.
Was it?
Maybe not.
I'll look it up.
I don't know, looking at it, whether it's the same thing we get every year and,
This was the first
do
year,
we
they
ever
were
look
very
at that?
specific in the type
I
of,
think
Oh,
they were
really?
last year too.
was it? Okay.
I did not do a line by line comparison, but I believe they gave us a fairly detailed one on that last year too.
I'd be more looking at the duration, I guess, 24, 25 minutes.
I did not make it last year. I thought I had heard pretty good things.
Yes, I thought it was good.
It was 17,250 last year, so it went up 750.
So now that, we would want to take a motion and send to the board for board approval? Is that am I right in saying that?
So that's a 4.3% increase over last year.
Let's-
I would make a motion, and now this is on the 3rd of July, which is what day of the week?
Is it a Monday? It's a Monday this year.
Why when these people come up with upgrades, do they feel like downgrades? The 3rd is a Wednesday,
Yes, it is.
which, during the middle of the week, maybe it's not a bad idea because people can be up late and they got all day Thursday. So maybe in this type of case, it's actually a good thing that it's not on the holiday.
They'll still be wondering why it's not on the floor.
Well, they're not doing many on the fourth because they're having difficulty
Getting
getting
their own people.
technicians to
The
even.
2
work
people,
on
one
it.
is they don't have the staff, number 2, we're cheap and
There
we
we go.
took a lower. I will make a motion to approve the contract of $18,000 with ProTechnics for 2024, or Pyrotechnical.
To recommend board approval of that, right?
Right.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Or discussion, is there any discussion more than we had?
I mean, I was kind of, is there any way that we can like, and I guess this could go into finance as well, but I just feel like, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money.
It is, and you know what their position is, take it or leave it.
It is.
I get that too, but I was like, I understand that we're working with this company and whatnot, but like, I wonder what the difference would be from 20 to 25 minutes, you know what I mean? Which, I mean, if it's always been 25 minutes, then I understand, but
Price difference.
yeah, price difference.
Well,
Cause if
it's
it's,
probably, if there's gonna be a difference, it's probably not as significant. I mean, there's a lot of mobilization costs and transport costs and insurance costs. So if we, you know, I don't think you'd wanna cheat it down too far. People start to notice. You could probably add a little bit on there, but that might be worthy of it. And the other one is I should probably talk to Julie. You know, we joined them at Forest Hills for their, and it was a really good display, but I don't know what they paid for it. Maybe she may have some, you know, for the future years or whatever, to just try to find out whether there's competitive companies that,
I did look into that, I did find a
What did-
company out of Michigan, and I just didn't get a chance, well, I did contact them, but I left a message, they never got back to me, but I did go to their website and, I mean, it looked good, but
you know, the thing is, if you get somebody coming all the way in, where's this place located?
I think it's out east. I can't remember.
Like east of Illinois, I mean,
Out east, I'm gonna say like Ohio.
also, so they're mobilizing quite a bit too. huh?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where they're from, because it used to be Melrose Pyrotechnics.
That's right.
And Pyrotechnico bought Melrose.
Okay, that's.
Yes.
Okay, that's probably one reason why you've got more pricing increasing now, because there's fewer players, they got to leverage that, okay?
And so I can't remember where they're located.
Hopefully it does not say that I've found yet on that quote.
Well, and I think, again, these things, we've got lots on our plate or whatever, I would say that we probably, you know, need to start investigating for 2025, but, you know, because if we don't move fairly quickly, we could lose the opportunity. Is there a deadline on that timeline?
Not generally with Pyrotechnico. So we just need to.
Yeah, I didn't see
Once
one.
we approve the contract, then we have to pay 50% of the, at the time of signing the contract.
Okay, is that all the discussion? Everybody in favor of Mike's motion to recommend for board approval the firework display?
Yay. Yes.
Yes. That will go to the board. We did that. Let's jump to H, the NICOR gas ordinance. Help me out.
I started reading through that and I was like reading in circles. I think
Yeah.
in exchange for allowing them to run their pipes through the village, that they in turn give us free use of a certain amount of gas. That's kind of what I gathered out of it.
So they have two methods for how municipalities handle these agreements. And one is the way that we're doing it now, where they allot us a certain number of therms and we just use it without being billed. And the other option is we have to go into a 3-year agreement to, or whatever, a 50-year agreement with 3-year intervals. And what they do is they start billing us and they say that whatever therm values that we don't use, we can get reimbursed at the end of the year. But when I dug into this further, when you go into the billing cycle, so we would have to pay and then we would get that kickback. But right now, we're not paying any fees. We're not paying anything. We're just receiving the service. And we have never, in the time that I've been here, gone over the allotted amount of therms. But it took a lot of talking to them at the time that this came up before. If we go on to a billing cycle, there are fees, like
Customer
customer
fees
fees and usage
transportation
fees and
fees.
service fees. And that's like $40-some added to the bill that we're not currently paying because we're just receiving the service.
So what they would
So-
probably credit you back for was gas, but not necessarily, potentially not the fees.
And when I did this in 2020 and so the other piece is, so the price of the therms, you don't get the current price. You have to like freeze it for, it's like a 3-year average. So if you've noticed, therms went up recently and we could have been stuck paying those over the course of 3 years instead of just the regular usage, like a residential. So when I did this analysis in 2020, it didn't make any sense for us to go with the other method.
The agreement that we received, is there anything fundamentally different in that? Is it just that we're at the end of a 50-year cycle, so we gotta renew it for another 50 years?
Yes, and the billing thing was my piece of it. The other things, I believe Chad would need to talk about with you because it has to do with easements and not charging them permitting fees when they're doing their construction. And we really, I mean, I'm speaking for Kelly too, but I've never had NICOR come in here
I had
and,
two applications for permits just last year.
really?
Yeah.
Is that for new construction?
No, it's when they do maintenance on the lines. No, I think it was last year, they replaced a lot of lines in the old part of town. They replaced some lines along McNair, west and then east as well. from
So they're
Lawrence Street.
paying us those permit
No,
fees?
no, I was
Okay.
told we didn't charge them permit fees.
Because I read through that agreement, it was like 3 weeks ago, but it said something about as long as we continue not to charge them permit fees, then they wouldn't charge us for something else.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work in the last, because what their plan is to
So I
go
think the
through
most critical thing that we need to do, and either two parts, one from Chad's perspective, if he's noted anything different in there, and then potentially have to have Mary take a look at it and just say, what's the difference between these two agreements, almost a line by line comparison.
So is this that ordinance? I was under the assumption that's what we had in place.
Well, I think what I interpreted it as is that one has come to the end of life, and so
Right.
now we're starting a new one that we need to adopt. But we just need to know whether there's any, technical differences in there or not.
For 50 years, you would think there was, but I guess we'll find out.
Wow. Don't let them assume.
Well, fracking.
So I didn't know to talk to Chad about it, but that's why we talk in here. So
Yep.
I'll move forward with seeing what he thinks and you think.
See whether he's noticed anything different in there, or are there any things in the former thing that are the same in the new one that are a burden to us that we may need to negotiate out or something.
Okay. Then.
But it's kind of nice because none of us will be here when it re-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we want to make
They
sure
probably
we try to make the next person's life as easy as we can.
Somebody thought that 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Put it this way, I told them that, when I sold my business, I'd stick around for 3 to 5 years. I'm almost at the 6-year mark. And I got a call yesterday that I had to dig them out of a jam with. Unfortunately, I remembered all the circumstances, so. And I was actually able to pull the email that I sent to somebody or whatever, said, I took care of this, doggone, and I know I did, and I got the email.
Okay.
Okay.
Last item here, because we did the budget, this garbage can for Matthew Stahl's Eagle Scout project. I don't know if you were in on that one, Mike,
I think I was,
maybe virtual?
maybe virtual, but I read the minutes and it sounded familiar, so I must have been involved with it to some degree.
He came in here and had a presentation he wants to put garbage cans along the Prairie Path. We couldn't donate. Frank was here then.
We couldn't donate
donate,
funds.
but we said we would buy one can if he got enough donations to get the other two. So that's what this is. I'm still waiting on him. Somewhere beginning of December, he's gonna get me information on what it'll cost and everything. I just wanted to make sure we're on board with buying that cave.
Yeah, we had, the last one that we did was a little bit of a better deal because the young man donated a bench and all we did was install it out at the Prairie Path.
It's just the can we're purchasing. I could have sworn he said it was 13, it wasn't like 1,300 per, but that was like or was that for?
Well, it
They
has
What,
a
they made out of
special.
gold?
No, it's for like
It has,
dog
like,
litter, right?
dog-
Yeah, dog, that's
Little
right.
bag, and that's what the
Dogs.
bags are for.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a can and they have
Those are
the
13.
rolls of dog bags.
maybe I'm thinking of all three.
Well,
But I was wondering,
I remember
and
13.
just from the finance side, if we can get a better deal than what he got, because we don't pay tax and all those things, so I don't know where he's purchasing those, but I didn't wanna get involved at the time that he was here or say anything, but
Well,
that is
fine.
something I was wondering.
Your catch-22, you almost gotta say, well, go ahead and do your research. Don't commit to it and then come back to us, because if we do all his work for him, it's not much of a project.
Exactly.
You know, I know when, can't remember the name, when they did donate the bench, it's like, we galvanize these things for people. Why is this not a galvanized bench, and why is it not one of my customers?
So okay, he said, currently I have raised enough donations to purchase 2 or 3 garbage cans with attached pet waste bag dispenser.
Okay.
So that it all goes into the garbage can.
I think they were like 600 a piece, 680 a piece or something like that.
And I thought,
Or
Yeah.
21.
Yeah, I'm not-
That stuff's like playground equipment, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, nothing,
yeah,
nothing.
but he factored in everything, like the pad and whatever.
I can't remember then though, somewhere I believe we maintain them later. I mean, we
Yeah,
have to.
Public Works takes.
Public
Right.
Works, when they're doing their mowing or whatever.
So anyway, that I'll know more about maybe by the next meeting. Just wanted to add it in there.
So that's what they need the UTV for, they can put
Well, that-
garbage bags.
That's
in
right.
that.
They needed it before that, this is just one extra task they can complete.
That's right. On to new business, any new business?
None that I'm aware.
So items for regular board meeting will be
The fireworks.
motion for the fireworks. That's it.
I thought we had something, no, I don't think there was something else.
Well,
Oh, no, sorry, it was just the consensus to move the budget to finance.
Yeah.
Or into finance. I knew something was going somewhere.
This computer did an update when I was in here yesterday, why is it doing another one?
next meeting date is, I'm setting up for last Thursday always. I hope that keeps working.
Yeah.
Which
The last
is-
Thursday, not the fourth Thursday. That'd be the 28th.
28th, yeah,
Yes,
which is fine.
5:30 again, right?
you say yes, 5:30. Oh, that's the week of Christmas there, so perfect. Julie's still got police on Wednesday, so we'll go with that. And with that, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I second. All in favor?
I
All right,
7:03.
7:03.
Are you guys gonna start some,
This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, what? We need to talk about it. I need to know what to do. Sorry. This came after the agenda.
We can't make a decision on it because it's not on the agenda, but. Right?
Okay, let's just let the record reflect it's 7:05 PM and the November 30th, 2023 Community Development Committee meeting that just closed at 7:03 PM has been reopened. Properly posted meeting, been reopened for the purpose of just discussing, not voting on one additional item that was intended to be discussed.
And this is not what I thought it was. I got the wrong
I
folder.
think you gave it back to me.
Since we are reopening the meeting, we do need to have a roll call to make sure that we still have a quorum for the meeting.
Okay. Ackerman,
Here,
McKinney,
Here,
Pitney.
Here.
okay, this subject came up post the agenda being, posted. So there's, the house that Simon, the elementary school bought that is it's to be demolition to become a parking lot. Does everybody know this house?
Yeah.
Okay, it's what road are we on there?
Is it South Pecatonica? Or is it-
Pecatonica Street. Regardless, it doesn't matter which house that is happening. We don't have a demolition permit.
we talked about one, about creating one a number of years ago. We must have fallen off the,
So Kelly did a lot of digging and she's running in to get it right now. She has, all we have is a very vague, on the building permit, a checkbox for demolition
Yeah, Kelly
with
and
no
I, Kelly
requirements.
and I had talked about that, we had talked about it several years ago. But then the people weren't interested in demolition anymore and we moved on to,
but we kind of
So,
had a lot of it prepared for when this house came down, getting all the foundation out and this out and returning it to original earth and everything else. I mean, so we did a lot of work on it.
I think there was some parts of an ordinance where there was some, I'm not positive, but I found a form that was just very basic.
for a demolition ordinance.
demolition.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, and it just had you had to contact ComEd and NICOR and sewer, and then the debris had to be cleared away.
Yep. Everything had to be restored to original earth.
Yeah, but we didn't have any form of application that they would submit, identifying the property, who's doing the demolition. Are they certified to do demolition?
But I think we had a Rockford document that was we were kind of.
That's
She
when I
has-
used mine. was-
oh, the Rockford,
I
and
did.
you had Pecatonica too,
I
you
had
liked, right?
Pecatonica, Oregon, and then we drafted a application
Okay,
based off of Rockford's.
okay.
We just gotta decide right now what we're going to do with, I would say, with this building that is gonna get demolished, this house, because they need something, or I would assume to adopt some kind of ordinance or permit or whatever this will be, that'll take some time. So what do we do in the
I don't
interim for
even
this
know
building?
what fee structure we would have.
Because they called Kelly asking for this.
How did we handle, because we owned it, but we didn't own it at the time they tore the house down, did we? How did we?
We got that property through the tax buyer.
Right. But, so, who took who took the house down?
It was the county.
The county,
The county took the house down. We paid the demolition costs.
okay.
So it all went through the county, not us.
But to what requirements, whatever the county was gonna
The
do?
county, we didn't have to worry about giving anybody a permit.
No, but we had to make sure that the work was done
It's
to
making me think about my house.
make sure that the foundation wasn't still in the ground and all that other stuff. But yeah, we didn't charge ourselves a permit.
Right.
In the building.
Does the schools pay
These
for
weren't
it?
demolished.
I mean, I did the full, but
well,
just remodel.
They are,
Right. Oh, totally different.
there was a company that contacted us, wanted to know if we had an application for a permit for that. And they were bidding it to the school. So there was 2 or 3 companies that
But I
had
guess-
submitted bids to
But
remove
in our
the house.
intergovernmental agreements or whatever, when they build a new school, do we collect permit fees?
Well, they're certainly not governed by our zoning and building code, so I don't think that they're.
Oh, that's a good point. Does this even fall under us?
But don't we still have to make sure
Oh,
that?
yeah, we still need to make sure that they meet the requirements.
That the sewer has been capped and
Yeah.
the water lines have been, and ComEd and NICOR, because from what I understood, that they have to be present at the property when those things are done. Our staff would have to be, a building official has to be there for that.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
That's what Casper told me. You know, maybe we have them fill out the form, but don't charge a fee.
Yeah, I would think at this particular point, I guess my opinion would be is they fill out the forms and we make sure we do it. They follow the Rockford process.
Mhm.
And at this particular point, fee exempt, I mean,
Yeah, okay,
Because it's all, otherwise it's all gotta go through board and.
yeah.
It'll
With the
take too long
timetable.
for that, that's right.
yeah, and if they're on a timetable or whatever, as long as we're confident it gets done to the requirements of that Rockford thing, I think we're, that's probably more important than whatever fee we may or may not have been entitled to, but we probably do need to get that back on the radar screen.
One of the items that they have to, that's suggested in the Rockford demolition was that copies of notices must be provided to the adjacent property owners
That would make
of
sense,
the
I
opinion.
guess.
demolition.
Just because of dust and debris and
Yeah.
sound.
Now what,
That's what I would think. yeah.
now what happened, the house that had the fire across from Don Kimes that got tore down and now rebuilt?
Oh, Teal Drive?
Yeah, I don't think they built on the original foundation on it.
No, and it changed addresses too.
So again, we probably gotta get this on there, because things are happening, yet we don't have.
And
I
there's
know.
potentially another one possibly too.
And I thought, you don't think there's anything in the UDO about this, huh?
No, but UDO's a new building, so it really
Yeah.
wouldn't even address demolition.
Mary, do you want to just see what we drafted?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Review
Maybe
it.
wanna make me a copy?
Actually, you can just have this.
Oh, okay.
I'll just reprint it. You can have that one.
And that's the Rockford one.
That one is based off of Rockford.
Yeah, it was pretty thorough, and, I mean, it,
Actually, Pecatonicus was,
It is.
Very
good.
and, which I was surprised.
Well, I mean,
But then they even have an application for who's doing the demolition to apply for a demolition license with the village.
well, what I would recommend is send that Pecatonica out to us and give us a chance to read it
Yes.
between now and maybe the next meeting. I mean, if it's good, don't reinvent the wheel. Just adopt what's there.
And we don't need an ordinance, we just need a permit to do this, or is that hand in hand?
Well, we would need an ordinance if you're going to have like a demolition requirements procedure. And then the board has traditionally always adopted whatever forms.
And if there's a fee,
And if
right?
there's a fee.
Because,
So in answer to your question, it does go
We
through.
could
board.
have an ordinance.
Yeah.
Should have an ordinance.
Should have.
Okay,
Yeah, because we already have a fee, an ordinance for permit fees, and so if we add a new one to it, we're basically amending the existing.
I'll scan these all in and then send them to you.
Yeah, and that way there, we can maybe, we may or may not get to it the next meeting, but somewhere in the near future, we've got a chance to look at it.
yeah, who knows when they're actually demoing it, we don't know the date.
No, we don't want to be the one holding it up if we.
Right, so I think we've covered that for now, and then we can hopefully come up with something more formal. All right,
Yeah, just reading this, it seems to be.
I'll say
For
not breaking
this
ground
initial
anytime
purpose.
soon, so.
right, you demo in the winter. So now I guess I need another motion for adjournment.
So moved.
One second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
7:15 PM.